You're listening to the Empowered Divorce Podcast, where you practice being the chooser in your life again, one day at a time. Thanks for joining me. Hello, my amazing, beautiful listeners. Welcome. Thank you for joining me in the conversation today. I have been so excited to share this episode with you. I recorded a lot of these episodes. I recorded this a while ago just to try and work our timing in before the beginning of the year got crazy. And it's a conversation that Meagan and I had. I have continued to think about and have been, like I said, excited to share with you today. Meagan Norris is a divorce strategist and supports women in building powerful, wealthy lives through having a quantum divorce. The way that she approached her divorce was that it's not going to break her. She believes that divorce doesn't break you, that it can be an opportunity to explode you into an identity that you've outgrown. She helps women take this mindset into the legal process, whether you're preparing in the middle or rebuilding life afterwards. She helps you optimize your divorce outcome and simultaneously upgrade who you become on the inside and beyond during this transition. One of the things that we're talking about today is a big part of how she works, how I work in helping women start to own their story around all of it. We're going to be talking about that today. So I'm going to just jump right to it. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Meagan Norris. Like I said before I hit record, the energy and the vibe and the message that I see you sharing on social media seems to match this idea of empowerment, giving women, especially, which is the majority of my audience, an idea, a language that looks like. Because I think that was a huge part that was missing for me,
Yes.
that language. Well, what does it look like other than hell? What, right?
Yeah.
So what you and I are talking about today with the story aspect of it,
Yes.
I think that alone is a really big message that we get as women, especially going through divorce that feels like hell. And when you have betrayal as part of your experience, where everything is so fragmented and you're still not quite sure what was real and what wasn't, what was good and what wasn't, you're trying to piece a lot of that together.
Yes.
And so it's easy to try and force a story, a narrative to the story. So
Yes.
you mentioned again before we hit record, whether that's rosy, but also whether it was all bad. Sometimes
Right.
it's the all or nothing to the story. Again, trying to make some sense of it.
Yes.
So tell me more about your thoughts around and the importance of separating the experience of divorce and all of the this around it, but from your story and what that could look like, I guess, in an empowered way.
Yeah. So I talk about storytelling. I mean, I think it's one of the most important tools that we have available to us in terms of the identity work that we're doing through the process, but also in terms of manifesting like our new reality. Because the best storytellers are the best manifestors. But we also can't rush to we don't need to find a pretty story. We need to find a story that lands authentically with us, and as we evolve, so will the story. So I encourage my clients to, because they're so afraid of this idea of victim mentality. We don't want to be victims. I don't want to have this victim mentality that's going to hold me back. So I'm going to like deny that some of this happened. I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to tell this story that's not necessarily true for me yet. And so I encourage them to actually tell the worst version of the story to themselves in a journal, to me, if I'm working with them one-on-one, as many times as they need to for it to start to feel maybe even boring, right? Like if I spend enough time with that version of me until my brain is kind of bored with it, right? Or I've processed the emotions around it. And then one day I wake up and naturally the story is starting to shift and it will just naturally shift on its own. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But I think where there's some fear around telling certain versions of the story just to ourselves that hold women back. And I
Yeah.
think we're a lot stronger than we give ourselves credit for. We're not so fragile, but I think you were talking about the fragmentation. It scares us because I think we get this idea we are fragile and we need a lot more therapy before we can handle any sort of or more resilience. And I just I don't buy that. I think that if you've come through something like this, you're incredibly strong. You're not going to break. You can start you can start with telling your story and keep and challenge yourself to test that resilience and just start putting that elasticity back into your emotional capacity
Mhm.
during your divorce even, and you're gonna start building back that self-trust. Because that's what I don't know about you, but for me, what was so devastating was the self-betrayal. Like, looking back and seeing all the signs that I knew were there, but I didn't understand the significance of them, and I had this story for a long time that I was the only one who should have known better because he'd been through so much, he was traumatized, and I was really the only fully functioning adult in the relationship, and I should have been able to see this for what it was sooner.
Mhm.
And I forget what I was going with that, but just owning your story, letting it change over time, trusting that you're actually tougher than you think you are, and not being in such a hurry to get to some empowered version of the story because someone's authenticity is actually the most powerful vibration that we've got to work with. And we
Mhm.
can do a lot once we get there, but we've got to get there first. And then having someone that you can tell the story to, I find that the relational witnessing that's happening in these communities and with just the right support system is some of the most healing moments in a person's story because they've either been to therapy and the therapist was questioning them or their friends and family, like they're not comfortable telling them and their ex is gaslighting them. They don't really have a safe space for someone to say it was that bad
Yeah.
and I'm sorry. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't have had to happen to you. And it's just like those moments are so sacred and we underestimate the power of them.
Yeah. So thank you for saying that. I'm going to slow you down and go back to the part where owning your story, sharing your story, and you mentioned something like share the worst version of
Yeah.
of your story. You were talking about that part. Tell me what you would advise or what how you help your clients in this particular part of it because what I often see, especially going through the middle messy part of divorce and where oftentimes once a lot of my clients make that decision, the post separation destructive behaviors that happen from that partner escalate.
Mm,
It almost reinforces
mhm.
or reinforces a lot of the victim story because the victimization type behaviors continue to happen.
Yes.
But there is this balancing act, I think, too, with owning your story when you're in the middle of still bombs being thrown at you from the other side, and
Mhm.
especially through that court process. So,
Yeah.
how do you navigate that?
Well, I think it's almost impossible to have a full understanding of what is happening and has happened to you while you're still going through a trauma. We're not I would never do that work with someone who is actively in a very abusive divorce.
Mhm.
And I will often differentiate the you have been victimized by somebody and it is normal and appropriate for you to be having the response that you're having. And in fact, do you really want to have a different response to somebody treating you this way? Do we
Mhm.
want to feel neutral? Do we really want to stop being triggered by something that's threatening? The answer is no. We can see that we're being victimized. We can allow ourselves to even feel victimized. And we also still don't have to make decisions from a disempowered place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, can you walk through? Yes, it's, I think I use the term like you have been victimized. And the moment that you realize that is where you can choose to make the shift to
Yes.
changing out and moving out of that. But oftentimes, and where the stuckness part comes is there is some shock around those moments, especially when they are happening over and over. But where
Mhm.
it can be so useful working with the professionals to help, because sometimes we don't see where the bombs are being thrown at, especially if it's been happening for so long. And so it is and can be helpful working with someone to help, is where boundaries come in, right? This is where some of those shifts in your behavior can come in. I use the term of control bubble, like, okay, what can you control? Because sometimes we get stuck in a victim because we're trying to control the other person
Yes.
and control their stories. For example, when you're talking about stories, I see over and over where their partners are telling a story and a narrative about my clients to everybody, right? And
Mhm.
again, perpetuating that power dynamic. And it becomes this battle of no, I need to set the record straight and
Yes.
tell the real story. But there's an energy in that if we're doing to try and counter, right,
Yes.
the ex's or soon to be ex's story. So can you talk a little bit about that dynamic and how you see that play out? Because that's a
Yes.
very real thing.
It is a very real thing. And the way I talk about it as is like, as long as you are fighting against them, and most women know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's an energy, right? It's like most of my clients are very passive and overly agreeable. They're not arguing and sending reactive messages or to their ex, generally speaking. But even if your clients are, there's this consent that happens, right? When we energetically resist being misunderstood and judged, and we want to set the record straight and be right, which is a natural reaction to this experience, obviously, right? And to step
Yeah.
out of that, I mean, we're asking women to do Olympic ninja level work in the midst of one of the worst traumas of their life. And it's not fair, but they can do it. And
Mhm.
they need to do it if they want a different experience of it. So we can't fight him and win. We will, if we're consenting to that dynamic all the time, then we're already losing, no
Mhm.
matter what the outcome. So I try to help them step out of the dynamic and say, okay, but this has to be about you because you're the only thing you can control. So you feel misunderstood and judged. Okay, now what are we going to do? Because we can't change this right now. And what's our end goal? Where are we headed? Does this matter? Strategically, what needs to happen here, if anything, it's almost always nothing, unless it's specifically regarding a legal case. And how can we redirect that emotional energy in a supportive manner, whether
Mhm.
it's taking a nap, taking a walk, taking eating something, drinking water. And then once you get that process down, like for me, after my divorce was final, I channeled a lot of that energy into my business. And so I had a lot of grief fueled creative moments in the beginning of my business. There's ways to use that energy that are supportive of your clients and of their vision, that don't have them fighting this power dynamic they've already lost if
Yeah.
they're fighting within it. We have to find a way to look at it from a bird's eye view and say, okay, this isn't about controlling the outcome anymore because I can't. This is about me showing up and doing the best that I can with what I've got, being strategic, which often they conflate with being mean and being manipulative because they're confused or they've been told they are being that way. And then laying their heads down at night, knowing I've done all I can do. What happens now isn't up to me and it's not my job to control. I'm one person in this mess and I'm not going to try to control everybody anymore.
Right. Well, and going back to this, the idea of story and owning your story, something you said there made me remember too that in that dynamic power play that you're talking about stepping out of, when my clients and women going through this start to learn the language and understand the destructive patterns and behaviors and dynamics. I think we might have not hit record yet, but you mentioned gaslighting. I just did an episode with Sarah Morales around gaslighting and self gaslighting. But learning about those dynamics and behaviors can be so enlightening and empowering and invigorating. And there's this element of like, oh, I know what you're doing now, right? I know what you're doing now. You're not going to do it anymore. And so there's this fine balance of owning your story in this way of, oh, that's what's been happening.
Yes.
Makes me feel crazy. And I'm learning a language and understanding the dynamics and the patterns and what's been happening. And so to just hear a message of almost like, okay, well, now you can't engage, you can't call it
Yeah.
out, and you have right. And I know that's not what you're saying, but this is what it gets interpreted, right?
Right.
So can we slow that down even and talk about how they can own their story in a way that is healthy and safe and not playing into this dynamic that you're talking about where we're having that tug of war.
Yeah, I mean, I think it requires like support. You really do need somebody who understands this to support you because it is very difficult in the moment. I mean, I've been doing this work specifically for almost 4 years now, and I still need people to like step outside of it with me to help me. It's very difficult for the brain that's creating the dynamic to step out of it. So that's number one. But number two, it's a n- it's a next level self-awareness and self-validation, which
Mm.
is an amazing skill set that's going to build incredible resilience and this kind of everyone can suck it attitude that's going to help you build an incredible life afterwards. But in the middle, it stinks because I understand the impulse. Like you're trying to reason with somebody who's not reasoning. He's not reasonable. There's no logic. And so and sometimes clients like they'll say to me, "Look, I've just got to respond to this for my own sanity. I want to say this, right?" I'm like,
Exactly. That's
"Do it.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Fine.
Yeah.
Do it.
Mhm.
Do it."
Mhm.
And then what they start to see is it doesn't get through. We're making it worse. And so over time, they'll learn, okay, oh, I see. So there's no pressure to be perfect. There's no pressure to like change your behavior overnight or like totally put a sock in it. Sometimes we have to say the thing
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
But eventually you'll learn that it doesn't get you anywhere. And it's much more supportive of you if you will have other outlets, other people who can validate you and support you while you learn this tool and skill of self-validation, which takes time because and is maybe even impossible while you're still in the middle of the trauma. It's
Yeah.
probably something that's going to come later, and that's okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think that's really helpful. And you said self-validating and self-aware, and that is so huge. The more you become aware of how you're responding, your energy that you're putting out. I think I'm positive I've shared this before in past episodes, but example that comes to mind as you were talking is that texting needing to make sure, no, you need to understand, and the amount of time and energy of the
Yes.
text messaging and formulating the words in just a way that maybe this time he'll understand
Oh
it
my
if I say
gosh.
it that
Yes.
this way, right?
Yes.
The time spent during the day doing that,
Mhm.
my gosh. But the more I was aware, because I was very aware of him in that moment, right? Trying to get him to
Yes.
being aware of how he might. So that
Mhm.
shift back towards, and this is the whole concept of empowered divorce, like paying attention to me, my energy, my patterns. It was, oh, this just sucked 4 hours of my day.
Yes.
Do I really want to spend 4 hours of my day?
Yeah. I mean,
And
that's the way he wants, right? I mean,
exact
subconsciously.
no, exactly,
Yes.
exactly. Now I know this goes into probably a whole other topic we could get sucked into of the emotional divorce aspect of it, but,
Mhm.
like, yeah, I was emotionally still connecting.
For sure.
He
And
was
there
getting something from it, and so was
e
I.
Exactly. Like there is a like in the quantum field, the entanglement, the entrainment is there's a still an exchange happening there.
Yes.
And the cord cutting of that, the separating it out is kind of a slow it's going to feel like it's a slow process.
Well,
And
there's
that's
so many of those, I call them ropes. Yeah, there's so many of those
yes,
ropes that needs to be cut that we don't see because it's all become a big ball of
total mess.
yes.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm talking about too. And I'm like, you have got to make your divorce about you. Because the second you make it about controlling a narrative or convincing someone that you're right, you're already on flat-footed
Yeah. Yeah.
in terms of your own growth and empowerment and your future, right? Like never mind the actual divorce process and whatever all that entails.
Yeah.
I tell my clients all the time when they're still in the process or having maybe some disagreement after the divorce that they're no longer we're not trying to convince anybody of your position anymore. What we're doing is we're moving through this process strategically.
Mhm.
We're creating a record and a paper trail, but we're not trying to collaborate with someone who's not interested in collaborating. And that seems to like get through to them a little bit. They're like, oh, now I can pull some of this energy back. I'm just showing up so that I know that I've done what I can do to be child focused and moving through this appropriately. I'm not here to actually try to convince him that he should consider my position. And that seems to help them pull back their energy a little bit and to help them see that strategy in alignment with their integrity and their values is not bad or wrong or manipulative. It's just smart and it's
Very.
easier.
It is easier. Again, that's why I was like, I think she'd be really great on my podcast. We use a lot of the same language. I'm like, hey, we need to take the relational hat off and put the strategy hat on. But
That's
he lived in a relationship and acted relationally and adapted relationally and down to your central nervous system for
yeah, your
so long
DNA. Mhm.
trying to make this relationship work. It's hard to switch hats, but for a time, we are doing this back and forth a little bit. But back to your point of like, the more you self validate, the more you're self aware, the more you hone in on that energy of self. It's not selfish. It helps you keep that strategy hat on a little bit longer. And I love how you even gave permission to not be perfect. Oh, I cannot say that enough because you're gonna put the other one on
Right.
because again, many of y'all listening have been married decades. So yeah, it's gonna be this little switcheroo for a time. The longer you stay in your space, the like you said, the easier it becomes. But you also see, I think, the fruit of your labor, so to speak. Like you start to see the results and what real settling into that space of healthy, your healthy looks like.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh no, I want that back. This is chaos. I want to go back to that space. And
Yeah.
there's a little bit of back and forth for a time, right?
Yeah. And then once you get a taste of it, it's becomes you get faster at
Yes.
recognizing it. And so I teach that too. I'm like, look, at first you're gonna catch it after you've already reacted.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
And then
okay.
we're gonna move it slowly back. Then you'll catch yourself in the middle. Then you'll catch yourself before. And then one day you'll be like, oh, I'm not even gonna react.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna have a nervous system trigger right now
Mhm.
because I've come so far away from that. And it's okay if that takes years.
Yeah. It does take time. Something that I do work in my somatic work, and I'll just throw this in here because if you do feel like this is taking wait, quote, too long, give yourself some grace and some patience. But
Yes.
somatic work can help with this, especially if shock is stuck in the body. Again, I'm want to validate a lot of my clients who have lived through extreme abusive horror, terror type experiences. That shock of that experience will keep sometimes you in a trauma response. And so
Yes.
if you're sitting here going, okay, but I have tried that and I have been there, then this is why leaning into the somatic work can be really beneficial and helpful. But tell me, I want to stay on the story part of it and let you finish where I think you take some of your clients into this storytelling type process that I think is so important and beautiful. So I know I got you a little off track. Tell me a little bit more about what that process looks like for you.
So once we've processed some of the emotion around, that initial story that we want to tell, because most women have never gone there.
Yeah.
And then we tell that story, we process the emotion. And then what happens over time is that it starts to become more of this. I went through this really hard thing, but I can see that without that, I wouldn't have become this version of myself. And I love her. Like, I'm obsessed with who I am today. And even on my really hard days, still, I because we're still gonna have hard days. Life is never gonna be 100% amazing all the time for anybody. But I get up and I love the hard that I've chosen. And I can see that without the resilience that I've built through the things that seemed impossibly hard, that I wouldn't be able to hold space or appreciate life in the way that I can now appreciate it and enjoy it. And I do think that there's a depth of beauty that someone can feel that can match the depth of pain that without that without the pain, you really can't experience the same depth of beauty and appreciation and gratitude and love of life. Like, when I ask my clients what their visions are, I mean, yeah, they want to make money and they want to be really successful, but always the first thing out of their mouth is, I just want to feel peace
Yeah.
and I want to be happy and I want to feel like I'm in charge of my life and that I can live it authentically without the white noise of judgment in my head that I'm doing it wrong. I
Mhm.
just wanna, like, wake up and have coffee on my porch. It's like the simple things we long for that are actually very accessible on the other side of something like this once you do all the work to get through it. And
Yeah.
then you get to build on that because that's the starting point for me. I'm like, yes, we get that and we can create that, but then what do you want just for fun?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
those things are available to you too because of what you've been through, not in spite of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Where do you see a lot of women get stuck in their telling of the story? Where, for example, the narrative of divorce, the stigma of divorce, the way that they're oftentimes either experiencing or assuming how people are judging them, viewing them through that process to more of a owning type story that you're talking about. Where do you see them often get stuck?
Mm. Okay, so I've got several. One is I'm unlovable and unworthy. Like there's something wrong with me
Yeah.
because either he isn't treating me the way that I thought that I should be treated, or he didn't, right? Either talking about an ex or someone now that they're dating. Like I see that story come up a lot. And we do a lot of work around embodying that worthiness for yourself and then using it as a filter to edit your life, not outsourcing it to the next person you run into, right? And that
Right.
just takes practice and repetition and experience.
Mhm.
Another one is this fear that I can't do it alone, that it's too much, especially if you're a protective parent or a primary caregiver, right? Maybe you have most of the custody, or maybe you're doing a lot of repair with your kids when they're coming back. And there's a story around like, I don't have enough time to really have the life that I want. I don't have enough
That's a
internal
lot.
resources.
That's a lot. Mhm.
And then this like, who's gonna want me? I'm a single mom, like this stigma. And I mean, I'll tell you, like, I live in a conservative state and I've experienced the stigma. Like, I've had some pretty hard things happen to me because people are projecting their judgments about single mothers onto me. And I've had to really learn to intentionally decide what story I'm going to tell about the fact that I have 3 kids almost full time and that I'm mostly supporting them financially and that I don't have a co-parent here who's helping and I don't have family here who's helping and really anchoring into this truth that we're all projecting. And so when people project onto you, you are the editor of your life and you get to decide what you make that mean about you. And that's a skill that you can develop and that you'll get better at. And that is liberating because I just don't care anymore what most people think. Once in a while, I'll get triggered, but I'm like, okay, it is amazing because I'm like free to do whatever I want. It's so
Yeah.
fun to do that, to get to the other side of that work.
When you get really good, I'll tell my clients like, okay, we're gonna learn how to create an energetic bubble.
Yes.
You're gonna create that bubble, and you're gonna get so good at zipping that bubble up and letting everything that people are projecting, including your ex, just bounce in it. And I'll even have them like come up with a sound, an audible sound that they hear.
That's
Like
cool.
when someone throws something at you, it's gonna hit your bubble. What sound does that make as it bounces off? And they're laughing, they're giggling now because, like, I have the sound audibly in my mind of what that is, and it just makes me laugh because it's a very silly sound.
Yes.
And now you're shifting even the energy of rather than, "Okay, I have to zip up my bubble," and now you're pounding things at me, and there's still this energy of, like, defense.
Defensiveness. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, like, let it bounce, create a sound, and it comes right back at them. We're giving a little bit of a lighter it's
Yes.
not gonna land. I'm not gonna let that land on me. And you know what? Take it back. Let that's
Yes.
your
Give it
business.
back to them.
Yeah, it's I love quoting Byron Katie, right? 3 types of business, my business, other people's business, and God's business. Like,
I
that's
love that.
yours. That's yours. You kept it
That's
bad.
mine. And
You
there's a
take
lot of internalized thoughts that people bring with them from their ex, right? That actually has nothing to do with them
mm,
that
mhm,
they don't even realize are playing in their head. I'm like, wait, is that your belief or was that his belief? And they're like,
right?
oh, that was his. I was like, okay, well, we're going to give that.
Well, isn't that part of, I would imagine, the story writing?
Yeah.
Like,
The like untangling of what's mine, what's not mine, what am I going to give back, what am I going to keep, and deciding again on all of it.
yeah, yeah. And you get to keep I don't know about you, but I realized that I got to keep more than what I thought I could in the
Mhm.
beginning stages. There was a lot I think it goes back to what I was saying before where there's this kind of all or nothing, black and white. It must be all bad if I'm going through divorce thing. And I realized there's actually a lot that I get to keep out of that because of how I showed up in that relationship. I showed up in integrity. I showed up in the way that wanted to love and chose to love. So there's way more in your story, I think, that you can choose. I'll frame it that way to keep if you want. It doesn't
Yes.
all have to be labeled as a bad story, a victim story, a negative story
Right.
under this divorce heaviness,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
you use the language quantum, which can you tell me a little bit more? You use that term quantum divorce.
I am yes.
I
Okay,
love it.
so I'm not an expert in quantum physics by any stretch of the imagination, but I am fascinated by it. And
Right?
the metaphysical has really helped me see things from a perspective that feels really good for my nervous system.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly exploring like, oh, wait a minute. What's the metaphysical meaning about confusion? Like, what is confusion for me? Because I default to that a lot. And I'm like, oh, this is the result of someone's chaotic energy. Like confusion is is the desired result of someone else's agenda. So when I'm confused, I don't need to figure anything out. I need to get out of confusion and
Huh?
like let that go and come back into alignment with what I need to be doing. And so
Mhm.
I talk a lot about this idea of quantum leaping your identity, which happens in that moment, right? You're like, oh, I choose differently right now. You've quantum leaped your identity. In that
Mhm.
instant, you have gone from one version to another. And it doesn't take time. It can happen in an instant. And
Mhm.
then and then there's your reality that's going to probably lag a little bit and catching up with this new identity as you practice embodying it more and
Yeah.
more. And that messy middle that I talk about and you talk about, right? Between identifying a new desire for a new reality and then seeing it come to fruition is this almost it feels like a void or like a black hole because you don't know how it's going to work out. You don't know when it's going to work out. And you're literally living on a prayer. And that's
Well,
great.
and the human brain hates
Oh, it
blank
hates it.
spaces.
Hates
Spaces.
It hates it. So then it starts to create problems to solve that you don't really need to solve. I'm like, no, no, no. All we're doing right now is getting divorced. You don't need to figure out why you attract unavailable men right now. Like, we're going to come back to the grief and like what you need to say to your lawyer today.
Right.
And then what happens is it almost feels like, at least my experience of it is like I was in run reality and then I went through this void period, and then all of a sudden this new reality dropped in. I'm like, "Oh, that felt like it took forever, but then it happened, and it happened in an instant."
Mhm.
And it's really fun to layer that language into someone's vocabulary. And who cares? I just don't care how accurate it is in terms of like actual quantum physics, but because it feels so good, right? To be like, I'm doing the work of quantum leaping my identity. And if I keep at it, quantum physics says my reality must begin to reflect it. It is a sure thing they've proven scientifically over and over and over again. And that's where that, like, I'm gonna trust the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love all of that, and I'm into all of that. And my psychological brain is like, it has to because it comes back to that agency and choice. And when you and hope. I'm hearing so much hope in what you're saying too. And when the hope of a future that you thought was going back to this reality you thought, the future you thought you're creating with this partner shatters,
Yes.
it's easy for everything to shatter about your life individually, not only as a couple, but everything individually. I can never be anything. Like you said, lovable or chosen again, or which I don't even like that phrasing, but like being with someone again, right? And it shatters all of that. So even as you're talking, I'm energetically even feeling like how the principle of hope can fall into that as well. It makes me reminds me of a client that I was just working with, and she's trying to decide stay in this house or leave the house and sell the house. And and she was like, well, if I put all of the middle messy parts aside of how to and what does that look like and how exhausting and all the grief attached to all of it too aside, what do I envision? What does my higher self
Yes.
see in my future? And it was a new place, a new space. And there was a moment of just landing there that I could see happen for her. And I was like, just stay right, just stay right,
Groove. Yeah.
right? Just let that land where all of those what if and how and oh is just set aside for a moment. And
Yes.
then when all of that comes back up, like notice it, yes. But the more when I'm hearing you validate and say is really letting yourself land in those spaces a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit.
Mhm.
And it does just happen. I mean, I know that sounds like magic. We're talking about magic here, but all of the messy pieces, the how to's often, and I was telling her this, sometimes those things that you don't know how are going to work out actually come to you. Meaning you might have someone just mention in passing that they know about a place or they know a realtor or they know, right? Or some of these answers you don't know how you're going to figure out sometimes come to you when you work in this quantum way.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
That's
I mean,
been my experience, and I've seen it happen with my clients.
oh, yeah, I would say all the time, that's how it works. It's like everyone wants to know the how ahead of time, but you cannot answer questions about the future yet. You have to just start from, okay, I need to make I call it vision-based decision making because people want to make a decision based on statistics or the past or what they think is going to happen based on probability and black and white thinking and
Survival.
yeah. And I'm like, but what if we just did what you wanted? What is that? And
Yeah.
the more we can make decisions from that place, the more we invite this co-creation in with the energetic field where there are infinite possibilities in terms of how something can work out. And I'm sure you do too, so many examples of this in my own life, in my clients' lives, where they'll be like, you won't believe what happened. I'm like, I will be like, oh my God, it's so good, right?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. There's always options. And our brain limits us so quickly, so easily, because it is easy,
Mhm.
air quoting, to just limit and go, I can't. It'll never. I don't know.
Yes.
That is energetically easier. What
It
I think your message is a lot of, and what my message is a lot of is, and I'm gonna kind of full circle here as we wrap up. You said something, and sorry, I'm gonna misquote you a little bit if I do. But you said something in the very beginning of like, we are asking you to step up, and there is a lot that is being
it's
asked of you
hard.
through this, and it is hard, and
Mhm.
you're capable.
You're capable, and it's really worth it.
So
It's so worth it. And but it does require a relentless commitment to letting go of that scarcity. If you're coming out of an abusive relationship or betrayal trauma, I mean, the number of times I'm like, not today, scarcity. I'm like, let's go because it's so seductive. It wants to pull you back in because it's so comfortable and safe there to be like, I'm justified in giving up here because everyone tells me this is really hard. The story of single moms is hard. And I really don't have that much time. And it makes sense that I would like just stop
right.
pursuing a different way. And I just, of course, everybody, they're all justified. We're all justified in like not trying to step outside of that narrative, and it's not for everybody. Some people are really turned off by it, and it doesn't resonate at all, and that's okay. But for the women who are like, "This is water in the Sahara, I need more of this, please tell me more." I want like, it does require a relentless practice every day of being like, "I am not going to settle. The answer is no." And, like, I'm gonna do it tired, I'm gonna do it sick, I'm gonna go anyway because I'm not going to live this story for the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's just such a really powerful place to wrap up, honestly. Really beautiful kind of full circle there. Anything
Yeah.
else? I mean, I give you the last word now that you know it is. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap?
Maybe just that somebody's like, I think about my future self a lot, and she's rooting for me, and she's so grateful that I'm showing up today. And some days, because my life, even though I still have things I want to accomplish and things are really messy some days, but I wake up in this life having created the things that I've created over the last 4 years. And I look back at my past self, and I don't think time is linear. I think it's a spiral. And so there's a timeline where I'm still working through all of this. And I look back today and I'll talk to her and I'm like, you can do this. Thank you. I'm brought to tears with gratitude for her because she was so brave in the face of a void of nothingness with no certainty and a prayer and a vision and three little babies looking at her like, are we going to be okay here? And the same is true about me from 3 years from now. And so I talk to these versions of myself, and I love knowing that we're all supporting each other. And it's a great visualization and exercise women can do to help keep them going on the really hard days.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really, really powerful and empowering. And I'll just wrap up today and thank everyone for listening. And I'm almost positive that they're going to walk away feeling lighter. And if anything, if you're walking away going, just maybe it's possible for me, that's enough. And just practice that today.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you very much for joining me and having a really, honestly, I was looking at the clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been an hour.
I know. I mean, we can probably talk for another 4.
Right?
So, yeah, it's so good.
Oh, it went by very fast. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. Oh, I hope that conversation was helpful. I hope that you walked away with one thing that you would like to lean into around owning and honoring your story today. Just one thing, one shift to support you in having your life-saving divorce and your quantum divorce. Because Meagan and I both know that you really are the choosers in your life. And what's one thing that you want to practice creating just this week? Because you can. Take care, everybody.